In the 12th chapter of the Gospel of John, you will find a singular moment in the life of Jesus, which reads like a movie script. It is one of those dinner party movies, where all the characters have a backstory that you can learn as the dinner progresses, and where secrets are slowly revealed through the dialogue and the action. The dinner takes place in Bethany, near Jerusalem. It's not the first time that Jesus has been there. Time for a flashback. We know from the Gospel of Luke that on a previous occasion, Jesus was invited to the home of Martha and her sister Mary. On that occasion, Martha was busy with the preparation of food, while Mary chose instead to sit and listen to Jesus speak, clearly fascinated by him. Finally, Martha complained to this wandering rabbi, saying, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work all by myself? Tell her to help me." "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." His answer probably surprised everyone, including the disciples. Women, of course, belonged in the kitchen. They were not supposed to bother themselves with things they couldn't hope to understand anyway. Jesus, however, treated women differently. He honored Mary's choice to learn from him, and he refused to intervene. And so Mary listened and was deeply impressed with this rabbi from Nazareth. Back to the dinner party, where once again Martha is the hostess serving the meal. This time, her brother Lazarus is there as well. And in fact, he is the reason that the dinner party is taking place. Only a few days before that, Lazarus was dead. Mary and Martha had sent for Jesus while Lazarus was ill, but Jesus had not come. They grieved and buried their brother, sealing his corpse in a tomb, rolling the stone into place. Then, when Jesus arrived, 4 days after Lazarus had died, too late to be of any help, Mary fell at his feet and said, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." Her faith in Jesus was clearly boundless. "Where have you laid him?" Jesus asked her. And then what happened next was truly incredible. Jesus stood at the grave of Lazarus and commanded a dead man to come out. And he did. Back to the party again. Lazarus is there too. And no doubt the house was surrounded by people, mostly trying to get a glimpse of a dead man who was now alive. He was the talk of the town. He was also a grave threat, so to speak, especially to the chief priests, who were already making plans to kill both him and Jesus. In this account, Lazarus never speaks. He never tells us what it's like to be dead and then alive again. But his presence says a great deal about the power and person of Jesus. Enter Mary once again. She too says nothing at all, but what she does speaks volumes. She kneels at the feet of Jesus and begins to wash his feet, anointing them with perfume. She used way too much, enough to fill the whole house with its scent. It was an extravagant, costly gift. God only knows where she got it. And the act itself was scandalous. It was reminiscent of Ruth offering herself to Boaz by taking her place at his feet. This was more than just a thank you. In essence, here in public, she was saying to Jesus, "I offer myself, I am yours, I will do anything for you." In some alternate universe, perhaps, she could have become the wife of Jesus. Nothing said a rabbi couldn't have a wife. Nothing said a rabbi couldn't have a family. In legend, and even popular fiction, like Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code, he did. Spoiler alert, sorry. But that's not what I believe really happened. The offer was genuine and heartfelt. It was a total commitment on her part. She may even have been the first, but she was not the last, to say to Jesus, "I am thine, O Lord." She truly gave herself to him with no expectations or strings attached to her offer. All she had and all she was, she laid down at Jesus' feet. This too spoke volumes about who Jesus is and what it means to truly love him. Laying eros aside, it means total commitment, a willingness to give whatever is required and to do whatever is necessary in his service. What didn't happen then isn't as important as what actually did. She became the first of millions to give their lives completely to Jesus. And now the party takes a dramatic twist. Judas, one of his disciples, stands up and voices his disgust and objection to what has taken place. Interestingly, Mary is not the focus of his anger. It is the costly nature of her gift. Why wasn't this perfume sold and the money given to the poor, he had? It was worth a year's wages. Judas isn't wrong about that. But quickly we learn the real reason behind his anger. I suppose it might be revealed in flashbacks, showing how Judas had been given charge of their finances and how every time he'd been asked by Jesus to give alms to the poor, he had pocketed some of the cash for himself. Judas was a thief. How, we wonder, could Jesus have been so clueless about this man? Been there. It is incredibly painful to discover that someone who was unworthy of your trust in them. This is a dramatic scene, but less of a reveal to those who have been reading the Gospel of John, because he told us that before, way back in chapter 6. That still doesn't answer the question, however, about why Jesus didn't know this was happening. Truth is, I think he did. He was being patient with Judas, but it is made clear by his words here that he knew. First, he addressed the implied criticism of Mary. Leave her alone, Jesus told him. Mary isn't the one who has a problem. And Jesus was making that very clear to everyone. Then he said to Judas and everyone else there, it was intended that she should save this perfume for the day of my burial. Her anointing seems a little early, doesn't it? Jesus isn't dead yet. But truth is, his crucifixion is only 6 days away. Come the day when they remove him from the cross, there won't be any time left to anoint his body, as was their custom. Jesus' words indicated that even then, in the midst of that party, he knew his death was coming. Even there, with Lazarus sitting beside him alive, Jesus knew what was going to happen and what it would cost him. Jesus knew that raising Lazarus from the dead would set in motion the events that would cost him his own life. It was his costly gift to them. And that gift was far more valuable than the somewhat wasteful use of perfume that day. The raising of Lazarus from the dead foreshadowed, of course, his own resurrection, but also the cost of our salvation. When Jesus told Lazarus to come out of the tomb, he knew that he would have to go in. The exchange was now required, and the stench of the grave had to be replaced now by a sweet perfume, the one that Mary poured upon his feet. It is doubtful that Mary fully understood what she had done, but Jesus did. It is doubtful she understood that she was preparing him for what would happen only 6 days later. But I imagine that when that day came, she remembered his words. She had made her pledge. She was his. She would be there when Jesus died, and she would help put his body into the tomb. Meanwhile, Judas knew that the jig was up. Jesus knew. His words told Judas so. You will always have the poor among you, but you will not always have me, Jesus told him. Or, of course, would have been a little less so if Judas hadn't been stealing from them. This was his subtle way of telling Judas that he knew that Judas was a thief. Mary had offered everything she had and everything she was. Judas, meanwhile, had taken everything he could. From that moment, the die was cast, and Judas knew that Jesus would have to die, if only to protect the secret of his crime. In truth, Jesus would have to die so others like Lazarus could live. Jesus would have to die so that the gift of salvation could be given. One last scene, a postlude to our drama. One of the many times, perhaps, that the risen Christ appeared to his followers. They say that scent is a powerful mnemonic device, calling forth memories long ago forgotten. I wonder if the risen Christ still bore the scent of her costly gift, and if that was how they knew this was Jesus. If Mary hoped for some different sort of life with Jesus, then that is not what happened. But in the end, all that really mattered was that Jesus would always be there for her, just a prayer away. Let the play end, and yet begin. We are the actors now. What gift shall we give in exchange for the one that we have received? What sort of life will we live? Let those who love the Lord bow down at his feet and offer up all that they are. Be safe, and God bless you.